Welcome back to the Weekly Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and today I have another special guest on, and somebody we're pretty familiar with here. Caleb goes by KillPro88 on YouTube, does awesome cut-ups and other things for prospects. Is also the one who runs the Dynasty Index, one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, definitely. Where we just go through, if you ever are interested, there's patreon.com/KillPro88. You'll see all of our write-ups on different prospects where he handles quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. I do most of everything else, and he also does the actual dynasty rankings and writings up that. We also have a specific analytics kind of thing where we determine, I think the running backs one actually turned out pretty well with success and stuff. I saw your tweet on that. But yeah. You get a bunch of different stuff on the site. Like I said, check out the Patreon. There'll be a link in the description. How you doing, Caleb? No playoff Packers this year, huh?
Yeah, and unfortunately, Bills, no playoffs either anymore. That was a sad day. I know that's probably too soon, but draft season started a little sooner for me.
Yeah, I after that Sunday, I think I was more upset with everyone's reaction to the game as opposed to the game itself. I mean,
I saw your video, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't happy, but I got over it real quick when I saw people calling for so many people's heads to roll, and I was like, okay, let's get to the point first. I think the grieving will hit once I see Kansas City versus Bengals in the AFC Championship game. Yeah,
it always takes a little bit to set in sometimes. And I had just I won a league, and one of the prizes is you get the jersey of your choice, and usually it's a guy that carried your team to the championship in fantasy. So I got a Josh Allen jersey, and I wore that to our awards ceremony, and I was like, all right, I'm on the Bills train this year, and then it just ended awfully. I'm like, all right, well, back to where I was, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But you're not here to listen to us be sad boys about our teams not winning Lombardi this year. We are here to listen to us talk about some draft prospects, and like I said in the beginning, Caleb here covers most of the skill positions, actually all of the skill positions, and we have a group of wide receivers. I know you've been grinding them a lot recently. I have about 13, 14 done. He's got 22. A lot of them, he's got cut-ups and stuff. If you go on the Dynasty Index, when you go to the Patreon, of course, you'll see he's got links to different videos and stuff that he's cut up or other people he knows is cut up, and then that'll link to the different players. You can watch them specifically instead of having to go through and watch full offense versus full defense kind of tape thing. So we're going to just touch on a couple of those wide receivers and just delve into some guys we both have some talking points on, and I think we're gonna start real quick. What is your opinion of the structure of this wide receiver class? I know recently we've had some really good ones, especially at the top, but this one there's a lot of question marks with who's going to be number one receivers. That's still open debate, and just the overall talent level of this class.
Yeah, I don't think the top end is quite as good as last year. I don't think we have those Garrett Wilsons, Drake Londons. But I think as far as depth, I think this class might be better. Just looking at the guys who might be going round 3, round 4, I think there's going to be some nice diamonds in the rough along there. And a lot of guys, I mean, like you said, I have 22 receivers graded. There's still some 8 Senior Bowl receivers I haven't touched on, plus some Shrine Bowl guys, plus other guys. So I think this is going to be a really deep class. There's not that for sure number one receiver, but I think overall it's looking like a solid class.
Not to jump, leave the recording real quick and jump over. I don't know if you have it already pulled up. I can probably pull up my phone. Who's your number one graded receiver right now? As of right now,
it is Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm
okay.
Still on that train.
Yeah, I'm there with you too. I think he's my number one. It's so confusing with the top of this class because you have a guy in JSN who is really good and probably would be a top receiver in this class if he didn't get hurt. Was basically had a down year, was out all season practically. Then you had guys who were expected to come in and be these super big time receiving guys like Kayshon Boutte and other guys like that. Jordan Addison transferred over from Pitt after having a record-breaking ACC season kind of thing. So there were a lot of guys who had hype who just came in and did not have great seasons. So there's the guys who expect to be at the top are really not stacking up there, and then you have more of the guys in the middle rounds. I'm feeling pretty nice with it's not the best group, but if you're looking for a very specific skill, I think there's going to be a lot of guys who will fit that need, and there's a lot of variety in what you can get, especially from rounds 2 to 5.
Yeah, it's interesting because coming into this year, I had JSN and Kayshon as my 1-2, and I was like, oh, who's going to win it this year? And JSN barely played and Kayshawn didn't really do much. So, I mean, Kayshawn, I feel like, is one of the biggest mysteries in this class just because he didn't really play all that great this year. We didn't really see his ceiling that we saw in years past before his injury. And then he decided he was going to come back for another year. It's like, all right, let's see what he has. And then he decides to declare. So he, right now, I'm really going back and forth. Right now, I have him at wide receiver 4, but he's kind of, for me, like the biggest, there's some bust potential, still boom, but he's kind of one of the biggest question marks in this class for me. I still think JSN, he's got a high floor from what I've seen from his tape pre-injury. So
yeah, I have Kayshawn down at wide receiver 5 now, just because him and JSN both fought to try to lose in their wide receiver spot instead of trying to who's going to win it. And I think JSN, just from the fact that he didn't play because of injury, as opposed to Kayshawn, who played and just didn't get targeted and didn't have production, even though he was out there, I feel like that was a little bit more of a question mark for me. But okay, let's we picked out a handful of guys. We're gonna jump into them. And speaking of somebody, I've seen this guy floated as wide receiver 1, but I haven't agreed with it. I just got done watching him today. I haven't put a full grade on him. I think he's gonna be more towards the top of round 2 for me. I think you have him as bottom of round 1, but Rashee Rice out of SMU. I saw a PFF college football or PFF draft, whatever one it was, their Instagram account. They posted a clip from their draft podcast where they built the perfect receiver, and then they had Rashee at for the hands, I believe, because like he's got super high completed contested catch percentages or something like that, where like in contested catch situations he comes down with the most. He was like 40%, 30%, something like that. So I'll get into what I think about him afterwards because I'm kind of fresher off of him. But what are you seeing with Rashee, and where do you think he lands when it comes to your class as it stacks up right now?
Right now, I've got him at wide receiver 6 and like an early to mid second round pick. I really liked what I saw. I was really surprised by what I saw. First thing that I noticed was he's just like an alpha dog. Like you said, going up and making contested catches. There is no fear with Rashee Rice, and he's got incredible body control and tracking ball skills. Like, he's just that kind of guy. And he's got pretty good speed for his size as well. I think I've got him listed at 6'2", 203 at the moment. So got good acceleration and speed. He's got the talent and the sort of the body of work to be like an X receiver at the next level. And I had a take I tweeted out the other day, comparing him to another receiver in this class, that I'd rather take Rashee Rice in the second over Quentin Johnston in the first. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. But I like Rice a lot, and I think he's going to be a nice, solid value there in the second round.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I actually really like that take, to be honest with you, because as someone, and I think you can relate to this, who's a fan of a team that needs maybe some more juice in the wide receiver room, but also has question marks other places that you'd want to also maybe invest a first-round pick in there. If I can get Rashee Rice in the second round and then maybe grab like some kind of, for the Bills specifically, and some interior offensive line help with Osiris Torrance or something like that, and then grab Rashee Rice, or it's either that or get Quentin Johnson and then like one of these. I haven't gotten through as many guards as I'd wanted to. That's probably going to be my next focus just because I know that's a big area to need for us. But like if we got Quentin Johnson and then somebody who I'm probably going to evaluate probably closer to the third round or fourth round than the top of the second, whereas I think I have Rashee Rice more towards the top of the second, trying to maybe break into that top 5 wide receiver discussion if you can jump Kayshawn. But I think I'd rather have Rice in the second just because the value matches there better than I think you can get with Quentin in the first.
That was also another thing. I was doing some mock drafts today on the PFF mock draft tool, and I was all like, oh yes, I got JSN. I was doing a Packers mock, and I got like JSN at the end of the first. But then I see the guys that are falling to the second and the third, who's there in the fourth, and it's just like, do you really want to take a chance in the first round on some of these guys, or take a position at that maybe is not a deep, build at the offensive line spot, or grab one of those top corners and grab a receiver later. So yeah, I think Rice, he's starting to climb up boards a little bit. We've got him at the Senior Bowl coming up here, so a good performance there. Who knows? Maybe we'll see him in the first round as well.
Yeah, I've seen some people clamoring for him in the first. I know the draft dudes from the Draft Network, they're pretty high on him. From what I saw, I was kind of skeptical at first with the whole PFF, the whole hands thing, because I watched his first tape I watched was UCF, where he has like, I think like 3 or 4 just straight up drops that hit his hands, hit his chest, whose body catching a lot of passes. I was like, this is the guy that everyone was talking about being like, best hands in the draft, kind of this, winning contested catch situations. I didn't really see it at first, and then I watched Houston, and I watched who was the third one? It was Houston and Tulane. So, and then in those games, especially specifically Houston, he definitely had some big catches. There was a big catch in the UCF one as well, where it was out of bounds, but it was a super tall, like he had to get up top, one-handed catch, but it was just out of bounds in the back of the end zone. So I can definitely see where people were coming with the contest and catch stuff, even though, like I said, I had my early doubts when I was in my watching period. But I like him. I like his speed. He's able to use his speed a lot to set up like more of the comebacks and curl routes, things like that. I think that was a good dimension to his game. As well as I think he plays physical both in run blocking and when he gets tested with guys at the stem, things like that. He's not afraid of physicality in his routes and things and the such. So I like him as, like I said, a second round receiver. He doesn't have the complete game you'd want, and I feel like he's gonna be more of a slot guy than an outside guy. If you had to pin my arm against my back right now, but like he has the size to go play on the outside. I just think he needs to put a little bit more together, get coached up a little bit more on some release techniques and things like that with his hands, so he doesn't get caught up with like true elite jam corners. So I'm pretty high on him. I don't know if I'm as high as him as other people are, but in the second round, definitely I'd be willing to take him. So that is Rashee Rice. Now, I saw another one of your tweets. This was a few months ago, and it was people asking about like if there's gonna be one receiver that sneaks into the back half of the first, who are you picking? And your answer was the wide receiver from Boston College, Zay Flowers. And I've been on Zay since 2020. I was watching him then because I wanted to watch some Phil Dracovic, and he kind of just popped to me. When I dove into his stuff from, I guess this was 3 seasons ago, I watched some of his 2019 tape as well. He came off as more of like a gadgety slot guy because he was pretty young at the time. And then over the years, I've watched 2019, 2020, 2021 tape, and now finally 2022 tape. So I've seen like basically all of his starting years as he progressed, and it's one of the first prospects I can really say that I watched their entire like college catalog. And from this year, he took a big jump in my eyes where he was more able to play on the outside. He's shown better route running, better use of his speed in his route running. I think he can play over the top a little more. He can get up and win contested catches, unlike how he used to. Play with a little more physicality. Now, he's not going to be relied upon to do that stuff. I don't think he's going to be a dominant, like, jump ball kind of guy, but he's no longer that gadget, needs to be manufactured touches out of the slot guy who I thought he was when I first saw him back when he was like a sophomore.
Yeah, I remember watching him the year before, and I sort of had the same thoughts where it's like he's kind of a fun player, maybe like a round 3 kind of guy that can make an impact out of the slot or something. But I agree, he took his game to another level this year, and he did it with that increased physicality. Like you said, those contested catches was another great dimension of his game that he added. Like you said, not going to be asked to do that a lot, but showing that he has that is a nice plus. But what I fall in love with is just, how elusive, how quick, how fast he plays, how relentless he is. Just over the middle field, get the ball in his hands. He can make guys miss, and he's never that guy who's just going to like dance out of bounds and just take what he has. He can make plays and gain extra yards. So I just think he's an incredible playmaker. He showed that he can play on the outside this year, and I'm really excited with his potential. I mean, he's not like a big player, which some people are knocking on him. He comes in at about 5'10", 177, but I don't think that's a big deal. I think he plays strong, and he showed a lot this year that he can sort of be that guy in an offense that was, terrible, but he was pretty much that entire Boston College offense, because Dracovic even regressed quite a bit from the year before.
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with Dracovic because I was checking in with him while I was watching Flowers. The only thing I'm worried about, which is why I have him, I believe, as a round 2 guy instead of like a late round 1, is because he added that dimension where he's able to play, in contested catch situations and play through physicality a little more. And I think that'll translate well, and he has the potential because he's not like a super small guy. He's like 5'11", 5'10". He's not super like 5'8", 5'9", somewhere around there. We've seen outside receivers like Stephon Diggs play at sub 6 foot. So I'm not too worried about that. I think he could evolve into an outside wide receiver. My only issue is I don't know how well, because Djokovic wasn't the most scrambly quarterback and was more of that play action, take deep shots kind of guy. If you want to play him in the slot right away, how well is he going to be adjusted to doing those option routes and working off a scrambling quarterback, or working off script, giving your quarterback kind of the safety blanket as you want from your elite slots that we've seen over the years, or is he going to be more used to just being the deep shot guy, which he can't really do from the slot all that effectively? They're going to want like more prototypical slot. Then he's going to go outside. He's going to be able to handle outside right off the gun from in the NFL level. He's got like a kind of a tweener. Like we said, we use tweener a lot for like D linemen or old linemen and linebackers, but like he's got more of that tweener body build or tweener game right now that I'm worried where he's going to slot in day one as an NFL starter. But if you can get him into like a gadgety role right away and let him try to spread the field out while you develop one of the other techniques for him, which I would kind of prefer him to learn more of the slot stuff, because that lasts long after your speed and your physical abilities go away. So I think I'd want to coach him up more in the slot. But until you can coach him up that way throughout the season, where do you play him right away? Is it going to be an outside guy that stretches the field, where he's going to probably not get a lot of production, but is going to add a new dimension to your offense? Or are you going to try to throw him in the slot and hope your quarterback and him can get chemistry almost immediately?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how a team utilizes him. I think just getting the ball in his hands to start would just be good. Like, don't ask him to do anything special. Just try to get him acclimated to the game. I think he could eventually grow to that outside role. And I saw a comp of like a Deontay Johnson sort of him, which I can sort of see where he's learned to play outside really well as a really good route runner. I don't think Zay's quite there as a route runner, but I think he's a little better after the catch and making plays downfield. So I thought that was an interesting comp. And yeah, I think right now I have him at wide receiver 5. I've got another one. He's borderline first. I've got early second on him right now. But again, in the second round, the team's going to look at him and think what he could be at the next level as a reliable, hopefully reliable target, and then a playmaker after the catch.
Yeah, I definitely could see that with him. And I'm excited to see. I'm hoping he goes to one of these more offensively creative head coaches who can use him right away while he gets coached up behind the scenes by like the positional coach. And then we have one more guy we're going to discuss together before I get a little bit of a classroom. I get set down and become the student here. I'm going to talk about the guy that I responded with to that tweet where you put Say Flowers and I responded with Xavier Hutchinson, a wide receiver from Iowa State. I have in the past fallen in love with Iowa State wide receivers for the detriment of myself, but this is before I got into the tape. Hakeem Butler scoring me so badly, but he's in the XFL now. We'll see how good that goes.
Jury's still out.
Yeah, the jury is still out if this wide receiver, tight end, player, whatever, is going to do good. But I definitely think now that I'm watching him, and I'm thinking I've been doing those video breakdowns of prospects. I'm thinking when the draft season's over, I might be going back and like, where did we go wrong? Xavier, or where did we go wrong? Hakeem Butler. Where did we go wrong evaluating like Leonard,
pretty much.
Shaq Leonard from linebacker for the Colts. Like, no one was talking about him before the draft process. Like, where did we miss out on this? Where did we see too much from Hakeem Butler? Like, let's try to like retroactively scout them. But Hutchinson I have right now as graded as a first rounder, like an end of the first round guy. My reasoning is I know that he was used not as much. Like, he's a big body guy. He's one of those guys who's going to be big body, moving down the field. He's 6'3", 205, and he has some decent speed. I don't think he's going to be a big, heavy hitter down the seam or anything like that, or up the field as like a deep threat, whereas Quentin Johnson and people like that will be. But what he has that other guys that are usually his size kind of lack is going to be the in-between kind of shiftiness, quickness in his routes. I think he does. They utilized him a lot in like motioning into the slot and going out to the flat. I'm not the biggest fan of his run after the catch, so they tried to get him moving to that a lot. But I think as a guy who can be an over-the-middle kind of option receiver, big slot even maybe, but some guy who can have route running at different levels of the field other than just go deep or be a big body in the red zone kind of thing, I think he offers a more of a rare skill set they don't see in bigger body guys that we see from like the deep threat big guys like A.T. Perry in this class who does it well, Caleb, who does it well.
Yeah.
but he's not going to offer as much of this stuff as Hutchinson will. So I think he sacrifices a little bit when it comes to being the deep threat big body guy, but can do a lot more than some of these other guys who that's their one thing they can do. He does a little more over the middle of the field than what they are capable of doing with their physical build.
Yeah, he's interesting. I had him originally as like a second round guy. I kind of moved him down a little bit. Right now I have him as a third rounder, wide receiver 11. I like watching him. I think the first thing that stood out to me was his body control was just unbelievable. I mean, a game against Iowa, I believe, he was just all over the place. Just I was just amazed, and his route running is really good too. I just wonder, like you said, the issues I have with him is like yards after catch, making guys miss. He doesn't really. I'm trying to figure out what his role is, because if he's not like the deep threat guy and he's not really making guys miss, and he's just sort of this possession receiver, you know, he's got good traits. I just don't know if he has the upside in other places that make me, you know, want to take him in the first round.
I really like the comp you gave him in the index, which was Gabe Davis for the Bills. Obviously, I looked at that and I perked up a little bit. I really like that comp because Gabe, when we drafted him in the 4th, it was talked about how, like, oh, he can stretch the field, he's got long legs, he can move. But that was never really like what we saw when like he first started playing. It showed up more when it came towards the end of the season when they were really unlocking that for him. So I don't know if it was something that he was kind of not comfortable with doing at the NFL level, or they were able to scheme it up better. So I'm kind of hopeful with that with Hutchinson. That's why I kind of like that comp. That's something I forgot to mention was his body control is amazing. That game against Iowa, he didn't come down with those catches. The way I put it in my summary for him was that he can put himself in a position to make catches that many other guys won't make. Even if he doesn't catch them, he puts himself in with the ability to catch them. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I think one was he was like falling backwards and it was way behind him, and he was able to get hands on it. It was just like the ground jarred it loose. Whereas other guys would just let that hit the turf, you know, go back for another route. He was able to get himself in a position where he could make a play that was, you know, potentially a catch for pretty big yardage. So, yeah, I think he's going to have a little bit of trouble separating over the top if it's like a one-on-one track meet up the field kind of thing. But I think over the middle, his rack isn't great, but I feel like he still runs a little bit more aggressiveness. So if he gets the ball after a catch, he's not going to make guys miss, but he'll definitely pick up the extra yard or two with some tough running that you need. He'll be more of that between the 20s kind of guy who picks up the chains. Maybe, like I said, a big slot, even if he's a 6'3 dude who can run the way he does. And even though doesn't have the long speed, he could have a little bit of that burst. I think he could be able to shield guys out and be a mismatch against like smaller, because, you know, typically slot cornerbacks are like 5'8", 5'9". If you have a 6'3 guy who can have the agility of a guy that typically plays in the slot, then you have a mismatch there, even when the corner that covers him has been designed to be that mismatch guy. So that's my hopeful role for him, and hopefully he can develop some more things like that, maybe some better run carrier vision, and just overall just a solid guy that if I wanted a wide receiver 2 who's not going to overshadow my wide receiver 1, it can be versatile and where I put him, whether it's on the outside or inside, and can run the route tree that I need him to run, that would be my guy.
Sure.
All right, so that is the 3 we were going to discuss. Well, I guess we threw in JSN and Keyshawn at the beginning of this, but those are the 3 we had designed to talk about, at least at the beginning. But I'm going to get a little bit of a crash course in, what is it, BYU receiver Puka Nacua?
Nacua.
All right, you take the floor. I have not heard of him until you brought him up earlier. You have him here rated as a late second round pick, 4-year senior. He's going to the Senior Bowl, 6'2", 205. Go ahead, take away.
Yeah, this is a guy that sort of came onto my radar late too. There was a few guys I was trying to clean up, starting to watch for Senior Bowl stuff, and he popped in there, and I hadn't heard much about him. I'd heard his name a few times watching Jaron Hall, and he'd actually been dinged up a lot this year, Nacua, so we didn't get to see the full ability, and he was like, even the games I watched, I know he was dealing with injury, but it's interesting you haven't heard of him because he actually started his career at Washington when it was one of your teams. So I think he was dinged up there too a little bit, which I guess might be a trend, so maybe a negative there. But I was amazed by the playmaking ability of this guy. The first thing that popped out, there are 2 games. There's one against Arkansas and one against Boise State. The thing I noticed, the main thing, is he's just like a sideline maestro. Like, he made think 2 or 3 incredible sideline grabs in the game against Boise State, where he showed phenomenal body control, strong hands. One was in the middle of the game. Jaron Hall just threw a dot to the back of the end zone, and he just sat in there and got it. And the other was to win the game, actually, on the sideline, juggled the ball a little bit, was able to keep his feet in bounds. So that was the main thing for me right away. I was like, holy cow, this guy has amazing awareness and can do that. And then you add in this amazing versatility. They lined him up at Wildcat, at running back, moved him around, end arounds, and he's physical. Like, he's 6'2", 205. This guy punished some defenders. There was one going to the goal line, I think, against Arkansas, where he pretty much just truck sticked the dude going into the end zone. And I was like, okay, this guy can make sideline grabs, and he can play out of the backfield. And then a couple huge plays. He had one against USF where I think the first snap of the season, he took an end around 80 yards to the end zone. He had another long play against Arkansas that went for like 60 yards. He doesn't have incredible long speed. It's not quite like Debo speed, but it's enough where he was making these huge plays. And you add all that together, and that, I think he's just he's got a very interesting skill set that you don't see very often. The sideline awareness, the hands, versatility, the physicality. He's physical as a blocker too. The main thing was just sort of cleaning up route running. There was a lot of, he was in a lot of contested catch scenarios and came down with a fair amount of them, but I noticed that's probably something he'd try and improve on. But the body work I saw from this year, knowing he was dinged up for a lot of it, I think this is a guy that definitely needs to be on people's radars.
Yeah, the Jimmy Lake, Bob Gregory co-tandem head coaching fiasco that was Washington. I try to scrub as much of that from my memory as possible.
Okay,
so yeah. I'm pretty sure he was dinged up a lot when he was there anyway. But yeah, a lot of that stuff was just ugly football. That it was kind of like I'm staying up till 11 p.m. to watch this, and I'm like, oh god. But yeah, he fell off my radar definitely. I think I heard of him when they were recruiting the process, because I know they usually like to target some of those more of the West Coast kind of guys. And I don't know if he's from one of them, but I just thought the name sounded more of like a West Coasty dude. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's what they like to go after. So I kind of recall his name when he was recruited, and then I kind of fell off the track with that team after they started getting blown out by, I can't remember who the team was. Montana State, I think, maybe beat them.
Oh, jeez.
So it was not good. But yeah, I am definitely now more excited to watch him, because the way you talked about him, especially because the Senior Bowl is coming up, I feel like guys like that who are more of these physical freaks who played dinged up, it can now like fully show who they are as kind of those guys that will be like more of the surprises. So he was able to play through it. Do you think, did they say he's going to be healthy enough to like be like 100% for the Senior Bowl? Or is he going to be still playing through it when it gets to that time?
I don't know for sure. I think he was playing for the most part down the stretch, so I think he should be good to go. I haven't heard anything else, so he should be good to go at the Senior Bowl, and hopefully for combine testing as well. I guess that's one thing you got to worry about with some of these guys who are like sort of versatile. They play them out of the backfield and stuff. Like using them as a running back when you're a wide receiver can be a little sketchy. So that maybe is a little bit of a red flag. I haven't looked too much into his medicals and stuff. I don't think he's suffered any like major injuries, but something to keep an eye on. But yeah, definitely someone you should check out that I was really impressed with.
And one final question about him. So yeah, they use him all over the field and stuff like that. He's got that like bigger body build, but he has a little bit of route running issues. Where do you see him projected, like position wise, and who would you want to see him play for the most next year?
Oh, man, I don't know where they're gonna play him. I would think outside, but maybe start him off in the slot. But like I said, they really, BYU kind of moved him all over the place, and he showed he could. He wasn't a huge winner as a route runner, but it's something he can work on. So, but a landing spot, man, a team that would, God, I hate that Debo pops into my head every time I watch him, because it's not the same thing. But a team that could use him like that would be super fun. Man,
don't be afraid to go homer with this.
I mean, the Packers would be pretty sick if they don't go wide receiver early. I assume LaFleur would. I mean, they're kind of doing that with Watson already, though, using him on like end around and stuff. But not a guy you're going to stick in the backfield. Like, he's not physical. Like, he's not a physical receiver. So he could be like the perfect complement if you want complete, unlocked, like diverse receivers. If they took Nakua, I would be a-okay with it.
You say he's more of a Debo type. So I mean, I don't think the Jets would probably go for that because I feel like I don't know if they're going to spend that much capital into their wide receiver room again. But if potentially D'Amico Ryans gets a job somewhere or some of these other places, maybe Miami with McCarthy, or not McCarthy, McDaniels, but they also have Tyreek and Waddle, so I don't know if maybe that'll be more their complement guy.
That was one of the first that came to my head, but it's like, you know, they already have those two guys, but nobody's really been an established three, so maybe that'd be a good place to sort of work him in there as well.
Yeah, if you
pop in my brain.
If you're going to commit to being that pass-happy offense like Miami is, and you have these guys who are physical freaks when it comes to speed and converting that into route running, maybe if you have that more versatile, big-bodied, physical guy, that'd be a good match, especially because they don't like to use like Gesicki at all. So somebody who could fill that role, but as a wide receiver, would probably be better. We'll see. If he does drop to the third, I think they'd have to like jump on him because they don't have their first, but second, third, they have those there. If they want to really just put all their baskets or all their eggs in that basket, just go all in with another wide receiver, that might be good. But yeah, that's everything I wanted to get to today. Do you have anything in the works, big or small, trying to get that out to everybody else?
Yeah, I've just been grinding, watching a ton of film lately. Like I said, we're up to 22 receivers, trying to get as many of these guys I can before the senior roll. But yeah, just plugging away. I've been doing through Dynasty Nerds. They're kind of focusing on all 22, which I can't upload to YouTube, but I'm starting to work more on all 22 cut-ups. And if you're in the Patreon and in the index, I'm going to be linking those in there. So I got Jahmyr Gibbs, all 22, Hendon Hooker, Hyatt, Tillman, all those Tennessee guys. So if you're looking for some all 22 stuff, that's going to be in here as well. So yeah, just plugging away. It's only January, but time flies in draft season. So just trying to get as much done as I can.
Yeah, you'll blink, and then it's going to be the Senior Bowl in 2 weeks, and then you'll blink, and it's going to be the Combine in March already, and then you blink, and it's April, and you're like, well, it's already over, and I only had, like, half as many guys I wanted to get done. God damn it.
Exactly. It's always a week before the draft, and like, oh my god, I still have, like, all these guys I wanted to watch. It's just something you'll chase that you'll never actually get, I feel like. But yeah,
it's tough, but you know what? The more knowledge you get, and then whatever you don't get to, you can always just default to the other places and stuff like that. So diversify your listening. Yeah, so that's going to be it for us. I probably am going to be doing some more of those prospect breakdown stuff if you guys haven't checked those out yet. And other than that, I'll be plugging away at more draft content, and then I might be doing some more. I'll probably do some XFL stuff and get prepped for that for when the draft season ends. Actually, no, XFL starts in February. XFL Championship is right around when the draft is. So XFL starts in February. I might hop on that bandwagon while that's hot. So draft and XFL stuff over here is probably what you'll be getting.
I love your content lately, so
thank you.
Grinding.
All right, yep, that's it for us, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.